I'm here with Khalid, and Khalid accomplished a feat that I don't think has been accomplished yet in the country. Khalid, why don't you tell us what that feat that you accomplished?
Well, I believe that I'm the first Black Lives Matter organizer elected to public office in the country, but I won't be the last. There's a dozen of me coming.
Now, what got you involved with Black Lives Matter?
The lynching of black bodies by police, So first of all, Trayvon Martin, obviously I was really upset. But just to see all of these videos, I had a 1997 Volvo. It had like 200,000 miles on it. If I thought it could have made it to Ferguson, I would have driven it to Ferguson. But I was in allegiance with Ferguson shortly after that October. Was it Ferguson October?
Right.
There was a call that went out around Thanksgiving to have to organize the Atlanta chapter of Black Lives Matter. We got a little Russian interference going on here with the lights. But the Atlanta chapter of Black Lives Matter formed, went to that first meeting, went to all the meetings for like over a year, got involved in the political education, setting up our sort of political education department. And one thing just led to another. Around that same time, this old guy from Vermont was talking about income inequality.
Right.
I was getting laid off from my job as a bus driver at the city.
Right.
I remember the ATU. And I got laid off of my job around that time. It was this move to take the power away from our unions and get rid of our pension and our benefits. So I started working for the Sanders campaign, took the political education that I had learned how to do in Black Lives Matter, took it to the Sanders campaign and then to my own race when I ran for the city council in the city of South Fulton.
And you won.
And I won.
Well, it's interesting because, like I told you, I've watched you speak in more than one place, actually. And the narrative is that the folks who make up Black Lives Matter are radical, which they are. I hope they are, but also as they take the position that somehow you're violent and that you don't want to engage in the political process, etc. Why don't you tell them why they are so misled in that belief, and why not only that, but BLM is not it's a necessity, is a must at this point in our country's history.
It is. I'm looking for a card that I bet that I do not have in my bag, because I carry I'm a bag man. I have all of these different cards in my bag.
Right.
So,
there's a card right there.
Yeah, no, it's not that one. It's a black card.
Okay.
And I'm so angry that I do not have.
Well, why don't you tell us about the card?
Yes, I'm going to tell you about the card. I just wanted to show it because it has the website on it. But okay, don't have it. I want you to go to policy.m for the number 4bl.com. That's policy.m as in movement, for the number 4, B as in black, L as in lives.com. And what that is it lays out the entire policy platform. So while we were out marching in the streets, we were also doing this interdisciplinary work with academicians, community leaders, and politicians around the country. So over 50 organizations got together and put forth a well thought out, comprehensive policy for improving the quality of black lives in America that covers not just police brutality, it covers housing affordability, education, political enfranchisement, economic rehabilitation of our cities and our neighborhoods. And what's so awesome about this policy is that, about this platform, is that it has these links to well-researched programs. So there are links to research that show that these policies actually work. There are links to programs and places and cities and resolutions and ordinances where they've already been enacted. So these are best practices and ideal policies, and it's all in one comprehensive
I
document.
wish the people could have heard you speak at that forum that we were in before, because one of the policies I imagine would be in that document is the one that you spoke about, where instead of increasing policing, you could actually increase activities for young people between certain hours that would actually mitigate the crime and other things that people are concerned about.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're doing in the city of South Fulton, We're barely 100 days old. We're about to do our first full budget. We did a provisional budget for the first 5 months.
Right.
Our fiscal year starts October. And one of the things that I've led the charge in is prioritizing parks and recs. So we've actually made a commitment as a city council. We have a pretty young city council. 5 of us are under the age of 50.
Right.
And we are going to make that our number one funding priority. What usually happens in cities is that the number one funding priority is police and public safety.
Right.
That usually takes up about 40 to 50% of cities' budgets.
Right.
So what we're going to do is prioritize that, and what we've done is set out this policy statement that says we know that a lot of the crime, particularly in our city, is juvenile crime.
Right.
It happens between the hours of 3 and 7 when kids are out of school but parents are not home yet. And so by investing in parks and recreation and programs for youth, we're actually investing in crime prevention instead of just investing in punishment after kids have done the wrong thing.
Now, are you ensuring that you are listened to? One thing is getting policy. The other one is ensuring that that policy becomes effective or is put into effect.
Well, so, one of the great things about being a city councilman is that you get to write the policies and you make sure that they are enforced. But the step before that is really about political education. What I talked about at the last session that we were in is that very often in communities of color and working class communities, we are overwhelmed with crime, and so it's very hard for us to think outside of surviving economically and surviving physically, to think about these other programs that could actually improve our material conditions.
Right.
So one of the things that we have to do as progressives, after we get folks like me elected, is to not leave and run off to find the next election, but to support those elected officials and really help the policies that we're pushing to get out. And the same way that folks knocked on doors for my campaign, I need them to get out and knock on doors for these policies and programs.
That is a very important point. After you're elected, that's not enough. It's
not
that
enough.
you need the support of the community, and you need the support. You need the support of progressives in the aggregate, but the support of the community immediately.
Right, and a lot of it really comes down, again, to political education. So if we look at something like marijuana decriminalization, lots of regular folks in South Fulton might say, oh, we need to worry about crime, and drugs bring crime, and so marijuana brings crime, they have all these bad kids. But what we know is that when people are arrested, that, for example, in Atlanta, 97% of the marijuana arrests were African Americans.
Right.
We don't make up 97% of the city. So,
Nor do we produce the marijuana.
nor do we produce the marijuana. But what happens when we make up 97% of the arrests? We are systemically disenfranchised from educational opportunities. Certain drug arrests block you from getting student loans. We're disenfranchised from employment opportunities. There are lots of jobs you can't get with a drug arrest. And we're actually even disenfranchised from housing, because a lot of Section 8 housing says that when someone has a drug arrest in their household, that entire household has to leave. If that person can no longer stay in the house, or that mom or that dad will lose their voucher, and everyone will become functionally homeless. So you end up putting people out of houses. So, and then the last thing is that we know that we've done studies that for our city, that incarcerating someone will cost around $100 a day. That doesn't count the court fees, the public defender's fees that we have to defend those cases. So all of that is money that's being taken out of a system, whereas if we just did fines, instead of losing money, we could make some money on the illegal use of marijuana, and we could redirect that money back into youth programs, drug rehabilitation programs. So it's just rethinking this model of how we do government. But the first thing that we have to do is educate the general public to, here's the problem, here's something that we're actually wasting millions of dollars on, and this is a different way that we can do it that can actually benefit the community. And I think the last thing I want to say is this national argument. A lot of times we lose these statewide debates and these national debates because we haven't shown on a local level that these things can work.
Exactly.
And so if we can create this where at a city level, we decriminalize marijuana and everyone doesn't become meth addicts, right? Or everyone doesn't become crackheads or whatever. And that the city still functions and that it does materially improve the quality of life for youth in the city, then it becomes easier to sell that argument at the county level, at the state level, at the national level, because now you have an example of a place to look. And that's critical in the South, because we don't have a lot of progressive cities in the South where we can turn to and see these models. You can see them in California, you can see them in Seattle and New York. And one thing that you'll hear a lot of people, particularly in my city, say is, well, that's fine, that works for white people, or that's fine in Seattle where everyone's already making $18 an hour.
Right.
But how is that going to work in our city? And so by creating southern cities where we see that strategy working, it also helps sell the idea to other southern cities and other legislatures.
Councilman Khalid, thank you very much, and thank you for what you're doing, brother.
Thank you.
All right.
Can I give one shameless plug?
Absolutely.
I want people to follow me at Khalid Cares. They can visit KhalidCares.com, and they can find out about this day of political education we're doing at KhalidCares.com/election holiday.
Not to worry, we're going to put that into the video as well. So we'll tie that on. We'll put that on the screen in the video. So hang tight, guys.